Do you ever get the feeling as much as you try to work your butt off and as much as you try to contribute, do you ever feel like you're alone out here? Do you ever really size up the people in your life and wonder whether or not when you check the mirrors, are they really going to be there? Is there no one behind you when you really need it? No backup, no support? Well, I've gone through a number of situations in my life where I've had to make peace with exactly who I can count on and who I can't. And tonight I figured I'd offer some sage advice to those individuals that feel like they have nothing but toxic people encompassing their day. I've got but one thing to say to you. There is hope. There is a way. All you've got to do is collectively say, enough's enough. We're taking this and more to the front lines. And we're still trying to get used to controls. Greetings, truck lovers and truth seekers. Welcome to Truckin Frontlines, the beacon of truth in the trucking industry. Boss man here, chief executive of the Truth and Broadcasting Network, a sole individual with over 3 decades worth of trucking experience behind him, half of which have been right here, sitting behind the wheel of a 18-wheel truck. I'm bringing you trucking news, insights, and experience from that period of time on my docket, giving you the best of what I call a one road, one code philosophy that sets you and me apart from everybody else out there. That is, on this road we travel, we do it together. And together, we can make trucking great again. It brings me great pleasure to come up here every week and talk about news and insight. I decided to make this little bit of a change from what I normally do because you know what? You can be a YouTuber, you can be an influencer, but until you actually make a difference and get the job done, no one's going to pay attention to you. So I figure the best way to come to you every week is to have a mission and a statement of clarity. We can make trucking great again. And a lot of people bust my balls about that. But I'm going to tell you something. I am not quitting. I am not going anywhere. Every show is an experiment. Every show is a philosophy. A philosophy you're welcome to adopt, and you're also welcome to add to. I increasingly ask every time I come up here for you to give your contributions to the show by calling 860-785-3547. Some of you do, some of you don't. Well, you know what? I'm not here for everybody. I'm here for you. I am here for you if you want to get serious about trucking, news and events, common sense, and ways to improve the quality of your life. Out here, roads are long. Out here, times are hard. I'm never going to sugarcoat it. I'm never going to tell you lies. But the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put up or shut up. I'm going to offer you advice that makes sense. If you want to take part in that, I welcome you aboard. If you like this kind of content, you like this idea that I'm transmitting to you, please go down below, hit the like button, become a subscriber. So far, 774 of you have climbed on board and decided, you know what Bossman's saying is making sense. I welcome each and every one of you. If you're watching this on the replay and all you're interested in is the news content, timestamp will be down below by the time this is posted. In the meantime, let's get to it, shall we? Let me tell you, if you're always the one that's giving and you're always the one that's sacrificing, well, that's great. That means you're a quality person. But when you need someone in your corner, they vanish like a four-wheeler in a bad accident. Somebody with no license. Oops, I'm gone. Gone, I'm out of here. Well, if that's the kind of thing you notice happening around you on a frequent basis, well, it's time to recognize what that problem is. And let's put a simple fix to it, okay? I've known a lot of people in my life, and toxic people, like is on my thumbnail, they're all over the place. I call them leeches, okay? Sometimes you see them, sometimes you don't. It really depends on the kind of lifestyle you lead. Now, as a trucker, that's kind of limiting because you know what? We're in this box with 18 wheels under us, and we've always got this demanding schedule. So we really don't have a lot of time to think about our lives. So it's really easy when you think about it to fall into a trap of letting others control you. Now, I could be loose. I could mean that by family members. I could mean that by brokers and dispatchers. I could mean that by just fellow truckers and everyday situations you get into. But when it comes down to it, how do you recognize that that's actually taking place? And how do you identify the toxic passenger? Okay? I mean, I know of somebody who's currently in a situation that demands he look at exactly what's going on. And I feel for this person because they have the world at their exposure. I mean, they can do whatever they want. But in the back of their mind, I think what's going on is they're worried about the overall acceptance of everybody else around them. You know, they're dealing with should I or shouldn't I? That's bad enough, you know. But when you take it to friends and family and say, you know what, I think I can do this. And everyone around you talks it down like it's the worst possible idea. Whether it be a new trucking job, whether it be a new venture, maybe a new direction, maybe it's something as simple as a personal goal that's meant to fulfill that person. A person's goals and dreams are very personal and they're they're meant to be explored. Not every one of them is going to work. Not every one of them is ideal. But without goals and objectives, what are we? Are we just pawns? Are we pussies? What are we? We need goals. We need dreams. We need things that make us complete people. It's one thing to be behind the wheel of a truck, hold that steering wheel tight and keep it between the white and yellow. But it's another entirely to feel like your life has meaning, you know? So to those around those people, I say phooey, be gone with you. Toxic people are not a good match for people in trucking, okay? Toxic people see truckers as easy targets. We're used to handling our own problems, but people like that, they just push us to our limits and they make us more dangerous than we need to be. So, what are the red flags we can use to identify these people? I'll get to your comments and calls and everything in just a moment. But red flags are hey, do they call only when they need something? Do they make you feel guilty for wanting something? Or maybe they make you feel bad for saying no to whatever it is they're asking you. If you fail to provide them with attention or money or whatever material objects they're used to, do they become mean and evil? Maybe it's just an attention thing. Okay? Do they never show up for you when you need them most? Relationships, whether they're casual friendships or meaningful ones, they're two-way street, my friends. People really need to sit and think about what's in it for me. You know, to identify a toxic person, you have to think about, well, is this reciprocating? Is this coming back at me the way I'm delivering it? You know, loads, we get loads. We have them sealed or we seal them ourselves. They're intact when they leave the shipper, but they have to be in the same state when they're delivered. Well, the same thing with us too. You know, I mean, we're not just robots out here. You know what I mean? Much as like some of the Democrats out there want us to have robots instead of drivers. No. We're people. We need fulfillment too. Maybe we want to start our own trucking business. Maybe we want to start a social media gathering. Maybe we want to start a community. Maybe we want to start a movement. Well, to those toxic people out there, who the hell are you to say I'm not worth it? I don't see any gain being had by anyone, anywhere, poo-pooing an idea that's essentially somebody's dream. I don't see that happening. Want to recognize Poet in the audience. Dude, good evening. I'm having a different kind of show. Bear with me, be patient. A number of people normally with me are not tonight, but I've got a few that are. So to those, everyone and yourself, thank you for your support. Thank you for seeing my dream through. And we will get back to business as usual before too long. I want to ask the audience a question. I want to see if everybody's actually paying attention. I mean, when it comes down to it, have you ever had to cut someone off because they were holding you back? Have you ever run into a situation, and I'm going to bring somebody on that's very important to me to answer that very because I know exactly what the answer is going to be. But there's a valuable lesson in that. And the question to you in the audience, put down in the comments if you have a perfect answer. Have you ever had to cut someone off for just the simple fact that they were holding you back or preventing you from doing what was truly meant for you to do? Call us up on the phone in studio line 860-785-3547. Give us a comment. Let us know your thoughts. Good evening, my dear wife. How are you doing tonight? You have no audio, my dear. Hold on one second. Let me make sure you are unmuted. You have to unmute yourself, dear. One more time. One more time. Hit that unmute button. There you are. Now
we can... We're doing good. We're under a tornado watch.
Yeah, we're doing some pretty nasty weather here too. So if you're in the eastern North Carolina area, batten down the hatches, my friends. I have one person in backstage. I know they're waiting patiently. Do bear with me. I will get back with you here in just a moment. But I mean, when it comes down to it and life advice and the best way to handle toxic people, have you ever had to cut someone off because you thought they were holding you back? And what made you realize you had to?
The list is too long to go through, but yes, I have.
Well,
yes, I have. I've lost friends, loved ones, people who I thought would be, ride or die till the end, turned out to be not so much. And there were signs, like at first it was always that, brotherly, sisterly love, or, hey, girl, I got your back. Friends to the end. And next thing you know, I'm getting the knives and everything in the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you have to leave, we can't talk anymore, whatever. But there were always signs that showed me that.
Yeah.
But you know what? I look at it this way. I read somewhere. They didn't leave me. God removed them from my life.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. You know, and that's and Gilligan, by the way, thank you for chiming in. Many of people, I don't know exactly what you're referring to on that, but yeah, I mean, God has a strange way of opening people's eyes, and really, it happens just like that, you know,
Hmm.
and it's really strange because you know it's almost like funny I should say it's almost like a lightning bolt, you know, because I'm under a thunderstorm watch. I got lightning all around me, so if we have an interruption, please bear with me. Um, but yeah, it's like a lightning bolt, and I know personally the situation you're referring to. It was like night and day. We never
Hmm.
expected it to happen, but honestly, what I expected you to talk about, dear, was an episode in your life long before we got together. That I thought would have been perfect. Just
Oh,
that whole
that's why I said the list is too long.
well, and that I think would be a perfect dichotomy for learning, you know, what I'm about to get into in, you know, in the rest of this segment about identifying toxic people and how to deal with them.
Oh yeah,
So do you want to briefly summarize what happened to you?
perfect summary in like 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
I was with someone who I thought Prince Charming,
Mhm.
perfect dream person.
All right.
We start going out, we start dating, puts a ring on my finger, does a complete 360. I
Right.
become his property, can't go nowhere without him, can't talk to nobody except him. He even put black curtains in my bedroom and then through my house so nobody could see in my house. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
And I'm not going to go into detail, but it almost took my life being in that
Right.
relationship.
Right.
And it's always that go to. If it's too good to be true, it usually is.
Yep. Give us a call on our studio line 860-785-3547 if you can relate to what's being talked about today. I mean, in your experience, and I'm going to bring somebody else up as well to also answer this question, what's the biggest sign that what you saw happening was actually happening? And basically what was the biggest sign that what you saw going on was a person that was toxic to you? And what helped you actually realize what was going on?
I came out of work one night after cutting onions,
Right?
and I'll make this as nice as I can be.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when everything started going downhill.
Right.
I was like, oh, I was just cutting onions. And he saw me in the back cutting onions.
Right.
I had just started a new job, and it
Right.
was part of it was food prepping.
Right.
And I was cutting onions in the back. And he saw me go into a cooler with a gentleman that I work
Mhm.
with, a fellow worker. And he accused me of having relations with that coworker in the cooler.
Yeah.
I said, I was in there for 5 seconds to grab an onion. You saw me cutting that same onion.
Right.
And like they always say, the ones who accuse do. Because
Normally.
he
Normally that's
always
exactly that.
accused me of doing things I wasn't doing.
Yep.
Only to find out he was
Mhm.
the one doing it.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Isn't that funny how that works?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm
All
gonna bring
right.
another guest. I'm gonna bring in not to cut you off, but I don't want to go
Okay.
too long on the segment here. Now, bring on another guest. Thumper, welcome to the show. Good evening. I'm glad you could make it with us.
How are you guys tonight?
I'm
Good.
great.
How are
I'm great.
you?
We
Oh,
are we are excellent. So, do you
it's
have
all
anything? Do you have
it's all.
anything that would be pertinent to either what me and the missus have been talking about, or just the topic in general? Or
I have had to cut a lot of people out of my life to be where I'm at today. I mean, if
yeah,
they were still in my life, I wouldn't have a house, I wouldn't have my beautiful kids, and I sure in the heck wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
that's just the thing too, is you gotta do what's best for you
Very true. Very
and
true.
succeeding. And if you keep seeing a
And
pattern of going down the bad road with the same person, it's just time to cut ties.
well, yeah, I
Mhm.
mean that's quite obvious and evident. I mean, why extend a period of agony to being longer than it has to be? I mean, So what was the worst excuse someone ever gave you for treating you like crap? Thumper, can you think of any classic excuses that would qualify as quote the red flag?
Uh oh, I gotta think about that one.
You
I
think on that.
I guess
Think
a
of think.
lot. I guess it. One excuse is, "Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't in the right state of mind. You got the worst end of the stick." Type
Oh,
of
okay, that yeah.
phrase.
I mean, would that be a red flag? I don't know. Maybe that would be a sign that they're actually realizing what they're doing.
Yeah, but
So
a lot of those things, when somebody realizes that they're in the wrong, it's generally too late. And then if you do give them a second chance, it seems to be like a repeating pattern, at least with some of the people
yeah,
I've dealt with.
right, right.
And then if there is an issue, I mean, you kind of know one of my current situations right at the moment.
Hmm.
One minute it's good, next minute it's bad, and I confront them about it. No, we're just a bad time. We'll get, things are gonna change, and
Right. Yeah.
it's same excuse every time you bring up the issue.
Right. Yeah. Poet in the background saying total control freak. Well, let me touch on that term, control freak, okay? Because that right there is 99% of the issue that surrounds most toxic people. Okay. It's usually an issue of control. How do you think they exert control when it comes time to actually do it? I'll tell you, the biggest way they do it is guilt. They guilt you into thinking that because you care about your goals, your dreams, and what you think is important, they guilt you into thinking that because that's true, you're not doing for them. So it also then turns around to be all about them and never about you. It's never you're doing for you, good for you. I'm supporting you. It's always, well, because you're doing what you're doing, I'm missing out. I'm left with. That's usually what's happening. There's always guilt associated with that. So kudos to you for bringing that up, poet. Um, yeah, I mean that right there is the classic telltale sign that you're dealing with a toxic personality. Okay, I've got one suggestion, and if you've got any in the audience, please drop a comment on the replay. Put it down below the video. Let others benefit from your knowledge. Let others benefit from the expertise of the millions of years that could be watching this video right now. But one simple trick I have that really will end most toxic patterns is to simply stop over explaining and stop defending everything you do. Okay. People feed off your explanations because they're looking for ways to twist them, tie them up in a pretty little bow, and call it their package. Again, it's all about control, right? So if you're getting into a confrontation with somebody, whether it's significant or not, or somebody you're dealing with, business, whatever, okay, typically you state the reason why something doesn't work for you. And then you go back and forth for 10 or 15 minutes on what the solutions are. Well, save yourself the 10 or 15 minutes and the future headache of giving them control over you and just say, look, I can't help you because I've got a long week. I can't help you because of X. I can't help you because of what. Saying I can't help you conveys the message right loud and clear. You don't have control. I am the one in control. You can go with me or I can go on my own. Those are the only two choices when you say that. So instead, you say, you know what? That won't work for me. That's the way you take back control from toxic people and actually take affirmative action to make sure you can get the job done. Now, if you guys got any better solutions or any different ideas at work, by all means, let me know. Tell me in the comments. Let me, well, I got one comment here. Isolation. I don't know if that works, buddy. That may work for some people,
It
but
don't work.
yeah, for the majority of the people, you know, that's kind of questionable. You
It
know,
don't work.
yeah, I was going to say isolation works if you're suffering from COVID, maybe, but not when you're dealing with toxic people. I don't know. What do you think, Thumper? You got anything to add to that, or any other smart ass solutions at work?
Oh, not that are allowed to say online.
Stick
I
around for the
mean,
after show, folks.
I mean, you got to do what's best for you.
Yeah.
If you want to succeed in life, you got to do what's best for you. And if you got a significant other that will stick by your side, then that's more power to you, more power to them. But
Yeah.
you know, if you can work together, that'd be great. But the only way you're gonna succeed is if you um if you work hard at it and worry about it with on your own and don't trying to figure out how to word stuff right now. Sorry.
Take your time, man. Take your time.
But yeah, I mean that's just I mean if you want to succeed in everything, you got to work hard at it and don't. There's a phrase my dad was told to him by my great grandfather, and when I was going through a rough time in life, my dad told me the phrase. They never told me what it meant, but I figured it out. That phrase is "Don't take anybody's wooden nickels."
Good advice. Good advice. Great
So,
advice.
and that in normal terms, that is, don't take anybody's bullshit.
I mean, yeah,
Worry about yourself. Work hard.
yeah. Quite honestly, very good advice. I mean, it's the best way to counter most arguments. I mean, because honestly, you know, whether you're trucking or whether you're in social media or whether it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, you have to have a plan. You have to have a goal of some kind. And the more you try justifying to other people that validity of that plan, the more friction you're going to get. So just the idea that you say, look, that won't work, or just say no, as poet, said so eloquently, and Gilligan also is saying, that puts a lot of the weight on them. They have to accept you for the person you are, or you know what? I mean, it's life with regrets, and that's at the end of the day, that's not what we're trying to do here. And just like Don Bacon, welcome to the show. Glad you could join us today. Says you have to put yourself first. Yes, sir. By all means, putting yourself first means you get the job done. You don't put everyone else first when you're behind the wheel of this truck. You don't put other priorities before your own. Otherwise, you'll never get nothing done. Okay. And if you put everyone else before you might as well just stay at home and collect welfare. I mean, that's just, my take on that.
Well, that ain't right to do.
No, it ain't. It ain't. But you know what? I mean, it is what it is. I mean, when it comes to making improvements, once you've recognized you have a toxic personality, set the standard. Decide today what kind of people you're going to allow. Only you can make that call. I mean, whether it's people you're working with or people you interact with daily, occasionally, whatever. Okay. Only you can make the decision as to what you're going to allow. And ideally, the best way for you to get beyond that is to allow only supportive people, honest people, respectful people. If they don't meet the standard you set, Get lost. You know, that no explanation rule. Practice it. What I told you a minute ago, say it out loud several times a day. Okay? Test the waters. Say no to something small and watch what happens. You know, it could blow up, it could be meaningless, and it could just go over like, like a small pebble, but you never know until you try it. A lot of people are so stuck, they're afraid to do it. They're afraid to say no. So always flip the script. Instead of just accepting what you're told as important, flip it. Say, okay, well, what about this? You say it's all about you, but when is it about me? Toxic people don't need to rule your life. You need to rule your life. People need to accept that and understand that, or your life needs to take a different path. What do you think on that? Anything before I move on to the next segment?
I have one thing.
What's that?
Like I said, we don't we don't lose them. God moves them out of our lives for a reason.
Amen to that.
And I know, not to get religious, I know people don't like religion and blah, blah, blah. I know some how they feel, blah, blah, blah. I get that.
Yep.
But I truly believe if I didn't make the decisions I made by getting rid of the toxic people in my life and getting out of the toxic relationships, I honestly and truly believe I would not be here today alive talking to any of you.
Yep. It's a solid possibility. I mean, God has a lot to do with the decisions we make in life, and it has a lot to do with the amount at which our eyes are open. So I'll never dismiss that. But a lot of that also comes with us here, What are we willing to take? What are we willing to allow happening in our lives? Toxic people don't have to rule the day, nor do the effects they have. I dealt with toxicity for a large part of my life until I met that lovely woman I call my lovely wife today. Toxicity was a way of life for me.
I
didn't mean to cut you off. What'd you say?
I was going to say, I still think you smell too much diesel. You still think I'm beautiful. Anyway.
But toxicity was a way of life that I was so accustomed to dealing with that for 25 years, damn near 25 years, I was stuck, basically. I went nowhere. Now, I won't blame the toxicity of the relationship, but it didn't help much, nor did it help my kids. So, that's the other thing. You've got to think about the other people in your lives. How is that toxicity of whatever's going on? How is that affecting them? Are they feeding on it? Is it negatively affecting them? If there are kids involved, if there are family members involved, if there are work colleagues involved, how is this affecting them? So I bring all this up as a means to give people a shot in the dark, a shot at, well, maybe I do have more capability of making this change than I give myself credit for. Another new face in the audience. God bless you. Thank you for being here. If it wasn't for toxic relationships, I wouldn't have any. Joe, hey, look, a lot of us have that same problem. You're not alone. Half the reason I have this show tonight and half the reason I have this show every weekend is to wake people up, So, you know what? If you're not alone, welcome to the club. Go down below, subscribe. Check us out week after week. You never know what next week's topic is going to be. That being said, let's move on to the real reason everybody's here, and we'll get to that coming up in just a moment. When it comes to safety on the road, you need to take things seriously. No, that's not a beginning attribute to a sales pitch. That is surely a fact. We're tackling a story right off the press that's been out there for a little while. But guess what? No one's talking about it. Any great surprise to you? Well, I am, because you know what? A lot of people are talking about, and somebody in my panel had at one time ranted about this. So pay attention, Grumpy. Traffic safety around construction zones. It's always a big deal, right? Well, have you noticed an uptick lately in the amount of Google messages that keep coming across your screen that talk about construction zone ahead, left lane closed, lane blockage ahead, stalled vehicle, all this stuff? You ever wonder why that stuff is as prevalent as it is? One of the reasons is the increased technology being used through Google, and somebody's actually thought of a way of increasing the likelihood that there will be less crashes in construction zones. And it comes from a research article that I picked up. Link will be in the description, by the way, written by a group of researchers from the University of Missouri. These folks have been studying how to make work zones safer for both road workers and truckers. And let's face it, they're one of the biggest headaches on the highway. We really need to focus more. You got distracted drivers, people watching videos, talking on phones, reaching for stuff they have no business doing. Dude, when you're behind the wheel, pay attention. Both hands on the wheel, look ahead, be safe. Simple, right? A new warning system for these crash absorbing trucks. That's basically their theory, and that's their headline. Using something called truck mounted attenuators. They sit at the back end of a construction zone and they beam out information about the construction zone you're about to enter. Supposedly, this new system would detect dangers early and send out warnings before crashes happen. Some places probably already have this in play. I've noticed quite a few places, especially around the East Coast, where a lot of more messages are coming out. Left lane blocked, and they keep increasing in frequency. So, kudos to the people that are actually putting this stuff in and doing it. But here's why we're talking about it. It's really a solution, not just talk. How many times have we seen Pete Buttigieg or other members, politicians mainly, up high in the ranks talking about all this money being spent? We had no idea up until now what they're spending it on. Well, now this article is a good read. I recommend you go look at it. Trucks already deal with enough overregulation. We don't need more regulations. Slow down on that. Use stuff like this. Build up on stuff like this. This works. This actually helps save people. So, what do you guys think? Grumpy? Or not Grumpy? Oh, what do you think? I'm going to bring you on real quick because I'm going to be running along on this segment.
Well, I think you got 100% of it right. Sorry, I had my mic turned off.
Hey, no problem, no problem.
You got to look after yourself first, right? Just like what Tom said.
Yep.
And by putting yourself first, you can put somebody else first.
The idea of people being beamed electronic information through construction zones. Is that something you guys see up there?
Yeah, but they do it with overhead electronic signs.
I think that's basically the same thing they're talking about. Attenuators. That's basically antennas. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah, and them big billboards right across the highway.
Well, no, but they're actually beaming it out to people's cell phones. What do you think of that? I mean, that's actually coming to your phone and alerting you a mile or two before you get to the construction zone.
I would have loved that.
Yeah, that's what's going on. That's exactly what this story is covering. A lot of people are about, oh, it's data, it's problem. No, it's actually saving lives. So,
yeah, I can imagine. But on the flip side, that means you're paying attention to your phone and not to something else.
Right. There you go. So, we'll be back with you in just a minute. All right. Because we're going to get on to some other questions and probably try to involve the audience as well. Thumper, what do you think? I mean, when it comes to being safe, or at least knowing when you enter a construction zone, if you feel safer, I mean, stuff like this, that's got to charge you, man. That's got to make you feel good.
Well, yeah, but I hate to say it, but it's never It's never going to be safe because you got those idiot drivers who are in a hurry. You got those drivers who think they could be in an 18-wheeler to the construction zone. I mean, that's a lot of your accidents right there. People not paying attention or texting and driving, aggressive driving. I'm trying to think, road rage. I mean, once you eliminate that stuff will be safer. But that's just
well, I mean,
nature of the beast. It's never going to happen.
Well, yeah, but here's the alternative. And the alternative is really overregulation. I mean, when you think about it, what this company has done and what this particular research paper basically highlights in my eyes is our industry is no stranger to regulations, okay? They often come at various paces, and usually they come at the least opportune time. This technology isn't about adding more weight or regulations to us. Instead, it's designed to serve as an additional safety net, potentially preventing accidents before they happen. So for once, the government's actually pushed a theory our way and pushed something our way that does not involve regulations midlife. I mean, think about that. We're getting a solution without the regulation behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bonus. I like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's great to do that, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, it's just it's one of those things that, like I just said, nothing's gonna change about that whole thing. You're gonna have those aggressive drivers or road rage or whatever else, but I know there's, like, especially up here in the north, if you get caught doing any of that stuff, you are actually in great risk to lose your license.
Very true.
They have a no tolerance policy up here.
Yep. And the man with the plan and the rant that I spoke of is setting center screen. What would you like to add to this conversation, my friend?
I'm just going to come straight out and say there shouldn't be any of this speeding crap at all through any construction zone. I've worked construction, and trust me, once you're out there, you see a difference. It's not just driving down a highway and thinking, oh, I'm going to be fine. There's no construction going on. No, not true. There's guys out there, which is what I used to do, which is called surveillance. They go down and through there. They're setting barrels up that have been knocked over. They're making sure the stripes are still on the roads where they're supposed to be. I mean, different things. And you don't know where they're at exactly until you come up on them. And then once you come up on them at an excessive speed, boom, like that, they could be gone.
Exactly.
And then you've got to live with that. That's one of the reasons why I come out with my rant is if you've not worked construction and you've not been out there, you're not going to understand what someone like myself has went through. And trust me, it traumatizes you whenever you've got trucks darn near taking your head off whenever you're trying to move barrels around and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just dangerous. And I do like the idea of this new system that you were talking about there, boss man, except for one thing. It needs to be audio, so it needs to come out and talk, because
I'm sure
taking our eyes and putting on there would be a bad idea.
I'm sure that in a rough way, that would depend on the device, because if these things are being received by Garmin's, I mean, how many times have we been on the phone with a friend and Karen blurts out something,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
as long as it's audio, that would be great.
Yeah, that may be the case. That may also not be the case. Joe Cummings with a comment. I was working Jersey Turnpike, moving equipment in the middle of the night, and we had a guy crash into the back of our 10-year truck 2 miles down a closed lane behind the Jersey barriers. Yeah, I mean, and that's, I think, what they're trying to do. And Joe, if you know more than I do, please pipe up, let me know. I think what they're trying to do is make them sort of mobile, but put behind barriers that cannot be a problem, kind of off-road, but close enough to the site where they can do that. And I think they're trying to make them more, I want to say mobile, but at the same time less, I mean, they can be put on vehicles, but the problem then comes with what Joe's talking about. They're involved in accidents, then they're useless. You can't use them. So, I mean, there's good and bad, but that's something recently. I've noticed an uptick on my Google messages, especially. Because think about it. If you're a truck driver and you're seeing them on your phone, how many other drivers are seeing that very same message? And they're slowing down and they're actually, whoa, they're paying attention. Whoa, 10 miles up the road, I got this or whatever. Just imagine for a moment the amount of accidents that have already been prevented just from this new tech and this new thing going on. Do you guys think that distracted driving is really the problem, or do you guys think that more of this kind of technology needs to be put in? What do you think needs to really happen here?
Yeah, I don't know. You could be more strict about it, but people are still going to do what they're going to do.
Do you think maybe the fines aren't enough? Do you think people are just not put off by the whole?
Some places the fine in a construction zone is over $1,000.
There are some states where I've seen signs being $10,000 or 5 years or 10 years imprisonment if there's an injured worker. Dude, if that doesn't scare you, I don't know what does.
They still do it. So
yeah,
it doesn't matter. Not trying to be mean towards you, Grumpy, or anything like that. I totally agree. We need to be safer and stuff, but it doesn't matter what we do. We still have those people out there who literally have a death wish.
Mm-hmm.
This I know.
Yep.
It's just like your standard. I know this ain't really relating to what we're talking about, but it's the best example that I can see. I've been to court several times, and there's people that are in there for the same thing multiple times. They're repeating offenders. It's a situation they get into. So it doesn't matter what you can do. You give them all the chances in the world, they're still going to do it.
Yep. That's true indeed. Trucker Mike, and back on our earlier topic, said in one aspect, sometimes getting away from toxic people is actually getting away from some or most of trucking companies. I'm not me. Well, you could, in theory, apply this to business too. You could I say this in terms of people that you personally deal with. But okay, Trucker Mike, I'll take you. I'll take your bet, and I'll raise you and say yes. This does apply to environments at work too. If you are in a job that has little or no promise, that they obviously don't appreciate the fact that you've been in trucking hypothetically 25 years or whatever, and they don't want to trust you with their equipment or their route or whatever, maybe it's time to do that analysis I told you about and say, hey, look, you know what? This is my thing. I don't have time for this. Just say no and identify what it is you want. And if they can't capitulate and reciprocate with at least some sort of respect, you don't say nothing to them. Just look elsewhere. Go, get out, gone, goodbye. Toxic people, be done with you. Yep.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd think I was talking about somebody on the panel. I'm just saying.
I wouldn't know anybody like that.
No.
I can think of at least two.
Right. I got somebody in backstage that I haven't brought up. Gilligan, did you have anything you wanted to add to this? Welcome to the show.
Well, especially, wherever you're talking about the whole what can make safer in construction zones.
Mm-hmm.
You can make them as safe as possible, but you're always going to have those idiots that doesn't obey the sign. They want to rush all the way up there as fast as they get up there, and then they end up causing a wreck because of it.
Well, think about it this way too. Here in the last, I'm going to put a number out, arbitrary number. Okay. Put it in comments if you disagree with what I'm about to say. In the last 10 years, we have been thrown a lot of technology like mapping programs for trucks, ELDs, newer and fancier ELDs too, right? Now we're getting thrown this stuff and all this tech that's being put into the trucks themselves, your ABS, your auto braking, your lane departures, all that kind of stuff. So my question now is, with all this going on, are we putting too much reliability on a future where we just have too much tech, or is that just what we're face to face with? I mean, what do you guys think? Too much or too little?
I'll be honest with you, it's not so much of the too much tech, it's too much of being comfortable with the technology.
Okay.
If you get too comfortable with it, okay, here's a great example.
Mm-hmm.
We had manual transmissions for years.
Right.
Then they invented the semi-manual transmission, which meant basically you used a clutch for stopping and going only. The rest of it, it shifted itself. Then all of a sudden they decided to make the fully auto, which is still operational through a computer, but we don't shift them. It does it itself for us.
Right.
So technology has grown to the benefit of helping us out and saving a few dollars.
Right.
But when you get too comfortable with it, that's where things go wrong. Everybody starts getting into that groove, just like me. Okay, here's a great example. I'll admit it. 25 years out here, I've gotten to where I'm so comfortable with driving, instead of being what they call the white knuckle driver and holding on to that steering wheel and be like, I've gotten to where I sit back, I relax, and I drive. And yes, I still observe constantly. I'm constantly checking my mirrors, constantly checking the roadway. But I'm more comfortable laid back than a new rookie driver would be jumping in the driver's seat going down the highway. Because I've done it for so long, I know what to look for and keep an eye out for it. And that's always a plus too. So it's not so much the technology, it's just how you look at it and how you use it. If you abuse it, there's your problem.
Yep. An old school fellow like yourself, Poet, what do you think the answer to that question is? Do you think there's too much tech in trucking today, or do you think we need more?
Way too much. Way too much. Well,
why do you think that?
You don't, as a driver, okay, with the lane departure, the automatic braking, the ABS, the you name it.
Mm-hmm.
Is the driver really in control of that unit?
A large argument could be put on that. And you know what? I'd have to counter is the truck being controlled by the tech, or is it being controlled by the driver? Because there's two schools of thought with that statement you just made.
I'll pipe in on that one.
Hold on. Just give me a second. A lot of people resent technology for that very thinking that you just and you know what, I get what you're saying, and I get why you're saying it. But honestly, just because lane departure is there, is lane departure grabbing that wheel, hitting that brake? No. Lane departure is warning you about a problem you have the ability to correct.
Okay,
now, the only problem that I see is untested or under-tested technology, and the evidence to that is the automatic braking tech that they're trying to, because so far they have still not totally ruled out the silhouette problem, and that is when you get the shadows across the roads. A lot of people are reporting instances where these things lock up. What did you want to add to it, Grumpy? What were you trying to say? I didn't.
Well, I was going to say to what he was saying is these trucks have all this new technology and a lot of them now. In fact, I worked for a company that had every bell and whistle there was to name on it.
Yep.
The lane departure, as you were saying, it's not going to stop the truck and keep you from going off the highway. It's just going to wake you up and say, hey, you're doing something wrong here. Check it out.
Right.
That automatic braking system has got a lot of bugs in it. And they should have never just launched it out like they did without working it out better, because like you said, see shadows, it slams on the brakes. You're coming up on an entrance ramp that has a curve in it. It slams on the brakes.
Yep.
I mean, it's still buggy. A lot of that needs to be worked with before they, just throw it out there and have drivers like myself. If it wasn't for me knowing this kind of stuff, then someone new getting behind the wheel and having that, they're going to be like, what the heck? You're going to freak out. They may wind up having an accident.
You never know.
Someone like myself knew how to take control of it,
Right. Yeah.
So
Coming
I
up
agree.
near
Technology is weird.
Yep. Coming up near on the end of the show, I'm going to run a little bit long, but we're having a valuable conversation, so I will not end it. If you've got an experience like Grumpy was just talking about and you'd like to relate it to us, give us a call, 860-785-3547. That is our studio line. We welcome your stories, your input, your insight into Truckin Frontlines. Guys, when it comes down to it, there's no such thing as bad tech, but there is untested. Now, when it comes to developing all that, who do you think should pay the bill? I mean, so far, it seems like, a lot of it's on sometimes the manufacturers. And, well, eventually that trickles down to us. But should it really go that way, or should individuals or maybe the government? What is your take? Put it in the comments. Let me know. Guys, what do you think? I mean, do you think we're on the right path? I mean, with this tech, who should pay for it?
Eventually, we're paying for it.
Well, yeah. I mean, if it goes through the manufacturers only, yes.
If the government pays for it, where's that money going to come from? Taxes.
That's true. That's true.
Sorry. There's this,
Well, I mean,
it doesn't matter.
I bring it up because what's the right answer? I mean, it was a research. It was a research paper that brought this to my attention. So think about it.
Yeah,
that was a research. That was a school. So that was industry. That was kind of a culmination.
Okay. There was something wrong with your comment right there.
What do you mean?
It was a school. What funds schools? Our taxes.
Not strictly. Some grants, some don't, but that's just depending. Some are privately funded, others aren't. We don't know the source, and I haven't really found it. But I see your point. Your point is
still may be privately funded, but we're still paying for it.
Yeah.
Because you got tuition, you got everything else. So there is no right answer on this one. It's going to be the same answer one way or another. They're going to get it out of our pocket.
It seems like I've got a majority of older viewers because I'm getting quite a few comments that come in. Trucker Mike is one, Don Bacon, Too Much Tech, both of you guys. And poor Joe, he's saying, I'm too old. I'm old now. I think you guys are really discounting. Really, I mean, this stuff isn't just for new guys. I'm in my 50s. I've been in transportation for 30 years. I'm not poo-pooing this idea. I think it's good. I think every advancement, when done right, will work. But that's just it. We've been hit with so much crap that's under-tested. And like Grumpy was just talking about, you get the silhouette problem. You get these, false applications, things like that. We need more time on the testing block before this stuff is actually put in. Let's know what this stuff is capable of before you put it into a guinea pig situation like my truck, for example. Trucker Mike says, especially with the lane departure system and things, but now the younger generation needs to learn how to read an actual atlas because navigation can and will go down. Yes, that goes right back to the old school argument. And a lot of people are too reliant on some of this tech and wouldn't know what to do when that eventuality creeps up.
I actually did a video on Grumpy's Couch here a couple weeks ago about that same scenario about the Atlas and GPS.
Yeah.
You remember that, boss man?
Yeah, I remember
Check out my channel if you don't mind, and you can
go ahead.
Catch that video.
Yep. In fact, if you're game for it, and you can do it, Grumpy, go ahead and put your link in the comments so people can go ahead and find your channel. You were going to say something, Gilligan?
I mean, I'm probably the newest guy in the industry as far as our group. But when I first started, they were just putting in those. Really putting in. I can't say they were just starting, but it was really going into effect of the automatic braking, a lovely little box on the front of the truck.
Sure.
When I first started driving, I can't tell you how many times with a company I was with whenever those were really going heavy into the industry. I had to go pick up loads because the trucks were completely demolished because somebody was getting off of a ramp and they were halfway up and it slammed the brakes on and they ended up wrecking the truck because they had no control over that part of it.
Yep. Trucker Mike has
gotten better.
Yeah. Not to
A
cut you
little
off.
bit.
Trucker Mike says all of us taxpayers, I believe, are footing the bill for all this tech and trucks, and that's not right. You know what? I don't think it's 99% the government that should do. I think it should be a co-op. I really do. We drive the trucks, so I think it's incumbent upon us to push for the right suggestions and the right tech. I don't think it's totally us. We're going to wind up paying for it anyway, so I'm not going to advocate we do it. But I don't think it's right to go through the taxes, and I don't think it's right to go through the way it's currently being done. I do think if you have the responsibility of creating tech in trucks, I think you as a manufacturer owe it to the people you're selling your product to fully test and implement any contingencies before you put it out there. Now, does that mean we want to pay for it? Yes, we're going to probably want to pay. It's going to be a higher cost for your trucks. But the idea that the footed bill at the end is suddenly Elon's problem, or it's Trump's problem, or it's, Ms. Khmer's responsibility, and if you don't know who these people are, look at my previous videos. All these people mean well, but should they be responsible? No, the manufacturers are the ones that should be doing it. They should put the bill. You want to sell the damn truck? Make sure it's safe. That's boss man's opinion, and that's
a very good, very, very good point. And I'm going to add to that, because a lot of what these trucking companies are doing is because of mandates that the government has pushed on them, just like with the car manufacturers. You can't even work on your own car anymore because the government has mandated, it has to get this kind of fuel mileage. It has to have this. It has to have a smog control. I mean, it's just gotten crazy. And that's why us drivers it trickles down to us end users. Even though we don't want it, we're still going to be eating it either way it goes.
Yep.
And to the knowledge of a lot of these drivers that I see that coming on here and commenting, I see you're probably a lot of your are veteran drivers, more so than myself. Been out here 25 plus years. Congratulations for you. I'm happy to know that. But I learned a long time ago, you either grow with technology and learn it and accept it, or get left behind, and you don't want to get left behind. I understand there's a lot of technology that people do not want to relate with because it does a lot of crazy stuff, such as with our trucks. Yep. But you've got to grow with it, or you get left behind. And if you get left behind, sometimes that's a bad thing. I'm just saying.
True that.
So I would like to comment.
Go ahead.
So it's like whenever they were putting that same system into cars.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those cars do you see going out here and having wrecked because of the same system that the problems that we're having with our systems? You don't.
Exactly. You don't exactly. I mean,
so my question is how can they figure out how to make 80,000 pounds with that braking system the same as they did with cars? That's what needs to happen.
Yeah. Well, and then too, a lot has to be put on the shoulders of the people operating the vehicle too. It's one thing to get into a vehicle and indicate that you've done a pre-trip. But how do you prove you've done that? Now, I bring that up for a benign reason, but it tenders well to the point you just made, Gilligan. And that is, how often are you going to buy a product, turn around and put the key in the ignition, go forth, operate that piece of equipment, and not look at the manual and what's involved in operating that? You're going to take the time necessary to make sure you understand the tech in that vehicle. And if you don't, you're going to correct that problem before you operate the vehicle, because it's just like starting out your day without doing the proper pre-trip. And Lord knows, we all know what happens when you do that. You wind up suffering the consequences. Mm-hmm. Poet, what do you got to add to that?
Automatic traction control.
What about it?
Well, when I was doing the off-road thing, or even in the snow up here.
Right.
If automatic traction control kicked in, because you couldn't turn it off.
Right.
Your RPMs dropped to the point where you were lugging. You had to have the down gear all the way through.
Right.
And by the time that you were down to like 4 or 5 miles an hour, and you were still spinning out.
Right.
It cost the company $1,000 per unit to have that little glitch fixed with their computer.
Right. Exactly.
And it came standard it came standard from the factory with this automatic traction control.
Yep.
And it defeated the whole purpose of what we were doing.
Yep. Exactly.
So how long ago was this, Poet? Because I mean, every tractor that I've been in that's had that traction control in it has an actual switch where you're able to turn it off.
24. Sorry, yeah. A 2024 international, I don't know, LT.
Okay.
Strange.
You probably had
I would
one
have
of
thought
those.
that would have a switch.
Yeah, I was going to say you probably had one of those rare circumstances where they probably provided a truck that was stripped and didn't have a whole lot of features. So that was probably one of those things that was left out. Real quick, I want to
That
get
would
to a
be
couple
my
of comments. Yeah, real quick, I want to get to a couple of comments. So let's talk about Trucker Mike giving us, I'm not saying I haven't dealt with it because I have, just wished it was at least tested. More so mentioning before the technology was put in the truck. Yes, Joe Cummings. If I had my way, we'd go back to building R model Max, Lewis Fords, and 459 Pete's. Yeah, I know what you meant, though. Yeah, he corrected himself in the next comment. Let me tell you guys, when it comes down to it, safety is nothing to bark at. I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of technology you're talking about, whether it's automatic traction control, whether it's, another tech at the end of the day, what started this whole conversation, the attenuators for construction. The tech is only as good as the individuals it serves. It is imperative that you as an individual take all the necessary time, get familiar with everything in your reach, everything you're doing, and make sure that you understand it. Because you know what? A lot of people, especially those of you that are older and in the business a while, a lot of you really underestimate you a help. You guys think, hey, it's tech, it's a problem. No, it's not. At the end of the day, some of this stuff can actually help you, and it can actually make your day better. But I don't know about you, but I'm not one to actually put the bill, okay? I'm all about tech. I just want it to make sense. I want it done right, I want it tested, and I want it put in a way that makes sense for not only me, but the people around me that also do the job I do as well. Guys, it's videos and live shows like this I live for. I'm coming back here again and again, and I'm doing more of these. Why? Because I want you guys to have the benefit of my 30 years on the road. I want you guys to know I'm serious about this. Every weekend, I might not be every Saturday, every Sunday, but I'm here up on the weekend. And I mean well. We're going to get the job done, and we're going to do it right every single chance we get. You are the reason I'm up here. And when it comes down to it, we are here to get the job done safely and return home. Because toxic people or not, we need to get back home. We need to live life. We need to do it the right way. Check everybody out on this panel. Grumpy Old Trucker, Driving with John, Fake Trucking, Bumper and Bow. Everybody here. If they've got a social media, you're welcome to check them out. Come back here and see me next week. Check out my Insight videos I'm uploading daily. Full and packed full of news and information you should not miss. We are here giving you guys the news, the insight you need to make trucking great again. Remember, it's the trucks that make the deliveries, but it's you that make the difference. Till next week, be right, be safe, keep it real, and keep it rolling.